Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your space, as always, for Black news, views, and opinions. Today is Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. February 25th. I'm Seth Lemon.
I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, as promised, President Biden announced his pick to replace a justice on the Supreme Court. The extraordinary list of qualifications that made Kentanji Brown-Jackson the top pick. Meanwhile, as Russia continues its all-out assault on Ukraine, the financial fallout is far-reaching. How gas prices, heating bills, and the stock market here at home are taking a hit. Then, as a former Louisville officer from the raid that killed Breonna Taylor appears before a judge, Breonna's mother is removed from the courtroom for wearing a T-shirt in her daughter's honor.
Plus, the rent is too damn high. Rent is surging relentlessly. How renters are spending more than half their income on housing, and Little Uzi Vert is being called out by a college student whose loans he promised to repay after graduation. Will he follow through? We're going to find out about that story and so much more. This is Our Voice and Our Truth this Friday. Let's get it.
We start today with breaking news. President Biden announcing Judge Kentanji Brown-Jackson as his nominee to replace Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer. The commander-in-chief managing double duty this Friday, introducing Jackson at the official White House announcement just this afternoon. Biden promised on the campaign trail to select an African-American woman for the High Court.
Truly humbled by the extraordinary honor of this nomination, and I am especially grateful for the care that you have taken in discharging your constitutional duty in service of our democracy with all that is going on in the world today.
Now, Jackson, she currently serves on the influential Federal Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C., seen as a precursor to the Supreme Court. The 51-year-old jurist clerked for Justice Breyer back in 1999, and if the Harvard-trained lawyer is confirmed, she would become the first African-American woman to ever sit on the Supreme Court. I mentioned that President Biden is doing double duty today because, of course, with all we've got going on in Ukraine, he's also managing this. But he came through with his promise to deliver his pick before the end of this month. And today, when he began his speech, he said, as we watch freedom under attack elsewhere, we are maintaining our democracy here and showing the world how this looks, how this works in a more diverse way than ever before.
Absolutely, than ever before. The key word there. And so, you know, what really is beautiful about this is that for so many years, we thought that Black women, Black people even, were not eligible to sit at these types of tables. We couldn't sit at this table, right? This shows that there have been qualified women and men, Black, that were able to sit at these tables. And so what I really loved was that everyone put their statement up online. Joe Biden put his statement, but he didn't acknowledge the fact that he's making history. I like that he didn't acknowledge that. He left it to Barack Obama, who was like, I'm going to let everybody say that she was a qualified justice, but over here, I'm going to let you know this inspired me, this inspired my family, this inspired my children as a Black man and a Black woman, that anything is absolutely possible. And last thing, so I think that there are a lot of people that are wondering because of this that this was a move just for Black people and Black people are going to get so many extra things because of this. But I want to point out two tweets. One made by Sheila Jackson Lee, who says that Kentanji Brown-Jackson has a passion for equal justice, number one. And then Stacey Abrams says this is a move for Americans, all Americans of good conscience. So this is for a good move for everybody across the board.
Yes, it definitely is. And let's just take a moment and just take that in. Black woman now sitting at that seat. How powerful. This is long overdue. And I like the fact that you get love from both parties, Democratic and Republican Party. Like, I know it's related through marriage. We're talking about Paul Ryan, right, Republican, but he spoke very highly of her. Said, look, we may be different on politics, but what she brings to the table is important for this country. What she brings to this table shows that she is worthy of being in this seat. And that says a lot. And plus, we know what Obama did for her back in 2012. So there's so many things we can speak on. But today is a monumental day. And I will say this. I applaud President Biden for making this happen still. He could have pushed this to the side, being that everything else is going on. But he still made this a priority.
The optics today were just incredible. Watching the first Black at all vice president standing over one shoulder of the president. And now you've had the first Black female Supreme Court justice nominee on the other shoulder. The optics were just very inspiring overall. And beyond her skin color, she is extremely qualified and she brings trial lawyer experience to the court, which is something many of the justices currently don't have. A former defense attorney, so she knows what she's doing.
Absolutely. That photo, Seth, that you're talking about, very, very powerful. And now to our other breaking news story. As the second day of Russia's invasion of Ukraine is coming to a close, Ukrainian officials say 137 of its citizens are dead and at least 150 others are injured. That news comes as Russian leader Vladimir Putin says he is open to peace talks. Putin made the statement after Ukraine says it would talk about adopting a neutral status. Putin's comments came as Russian troops close enter to Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital. Ukraine has discussed joining NATO in the past. However, Russia opposes Ukraine joining the military group. People in Kyiv are bracing for violent battles, and Ukrainian officials have told people to stay inside, and people are preparing Molotov cocktails just to protect themselves. U.S. intelligence officials are afraid Kyiv could fall in a couple of days. They say the Russians plan on overthrowing the Ukrainian government and installing a puppet government. So much is going on. I was trying to keep up on CNN earlier this morning, but literally updates. And we could go on forever about what's going on. But one photo that I saw that was very powerful, two photos actually. There was one photo of so many people in Russia who were actually standing in solidarity with not wanting to go to war. They know that they can get arrested, but it was so many people, hundreds of people that were making the statement that we are the people of Russia. We don't want to be at war right now. Another strong photo was of an 80-year-old gentleman who brought a toothbrush, 2 t-shirts. He's like, I'm fighting right now, willing to go fight right now for my grandchildren in the Ukraine. So many powerful images happening right now.
You're right. This is such a fast-moving situation. We saw Russian soldiers this morning threatening to kill any of the Ukrainians who defended themselves. So they're not only threatening people on the battlefield, they're threatening people in their homes throughout the Ukrainian country. Now this is coming in that Biden decided today to sanction President Vladimir Putin directly. Yesterday, reporters were asking, why place sanctions on banks and other oligarchs if you're not going to sanction the man who's actually responsible for this? Biden had said that his European allies did not want to go that far, and now we're learning that they do actually want to move that route.
Absolutely.
Nobody knows how much money he has in his bank, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is true. And, you think about Ukrainians that's willing to put their life on the lines. You've seen that story over and over again the last 24 hours, how, men from the age, I believe, from 18 up to 60 are not allowed to leave because they're going to stay there and they're going to fight for their country. And when you talk about him saying he's open to having peace talks, couldn't we not have that before we started this situation? Absolutely. That's the problem that makes me feel like I don't believe those words that I'm hearing from him.
It's the gaslighting for me.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
All right, Wall Street is rebounding today after stocks plunge hours after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The war could have geopolitical and economic implications that are already affecting oil prices around the world. Putin's attack sent oil futures over $100 a barrel on Thursday, but oil prices have taken a slight dip today, falling slightly between $91 and $92 a barrel.
Retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman says GOP lawmakers are emboldening Vladimir Putin with their, quote, attacks on our democracy. Vindman, he was a key witness in former President Trump's first impeachment hearing. The former national security official was responding to GOP Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who blamed President Biden for the Russian invasion. Now, she said Biden's weak foreign policy allowed Moscow to strike. She and a number of right American-leaning politicians have either criticized Biden or supported Putin's actions.
Bernie Sanders is echoing Vindman's sentiments. The Vermont senator is denouncing Trump's comments that praise the Russian leader. Sanders says it's not surprising Trump would say good things about Putin hours after the attack. Trump said Putin was cunning. Meanwhile, the former president has lashed out at the intellect of President Biden.
An ex-Louisville cop who took part in the raid that killed Breonna Taylor says he thought he saw an AR-15 rifle just before he opened fire. Brett Hankerson, a former narcotics detective, was not charged in Taylor's death. He is on trial for 3 counts of wanton endangerment for the bullets that went into the apartment next to Breonna's, but not for her death. Hankerson, who was fired by the department, said he believed his fellow cops were taking fire from an AR-15. Prosecutors say some of Hankerson's bullets went into a neighbor's apartment, almost hitting a man inside. Taylor was killed by other officers in the 2020 raid. Early in the day, Taylor's sister, Junia, and mother, Tamika Palmer, were kicked out of court for wearing a T-shirt demanding the arrest of the cops who killed Breonna. No one at this point has been punished. In life, we know we cannot turn back time, and regardless of what he thought he may have seen, he opened fire, which was dangerous. But this is a no-knock warrant that should have never happened, and we know that. And as a family, just have to relive this over and over again and go to court, knowing you're there for a man that didn't even pull the trigger to kill your daughter or your loved one, but yet you're seeing that you probably would never get justice for that.
You know, as a police officer, I understand that police officers at the end of the day and beginning of the day are humans, but I don't feel like you get the opportunity to say I thought or I'm mistaken. Like, you are held to such a high regard that we can't have I thought I saw this, I thought I didn't see this. And has this family not experienced enough trauma? Romeo, like you said, to have to be here, this cop is not even on trial for murdering their family member. You're on trial for the white people that were next door. And so it's just adds insult to injury to be kicked out of court when you are just trying to show love and honor your loved one.
You know what? And to your point, it's adding insult to injury because Breonna Taylor's death is not even of concern in this trial. It's the wanton endangerment of him firing into neighbors' homes. And so for the judge to say that any clothing displayed could show sympathy and result in a mistrial, I think is a very extreme mischaracterization, because this trial is not even about Breonna Taylor. But for her to put her mother out, I've worked as a reporter in at least 5 metropolitan cities across this country. I've been in enough courtrooms where there are family members of victims who wear shirts that identify the person who was hurt in an incident. Yeah. So for the judge to make this call this morning, it is just really out of lines, and it also questions what the genesis of the case is if a picture of Breonna Taylor is going to impact the court.
Why is it that triggering?
Yeah. All right. The recently passed $1.3 trillion infrastructure bill is beginning to deliver money to local cities. Indianapolis, it plans to use it to rebuild crumbling freeways built decades ago through black neighborhoods. Yeah, it happened a lot of places. That construction drove tens of thousands of African Americans out of their neighborhoods, and in some instances across the country, even Latino neighborhoods. Now black folks in this city, they say they want input in how the freeway is going to be reconstructed. $1 billion in the bill, supposed to go to community groups to right the wrongs of the past. Black neighborhoods around the nation were destroyed in the 50s when construction of major federal freeways began around the nation. But black residents who live near this new Indianapolis freeway construction, they're not sure the changes are actually going to help their community.
A Trump supporter who declared war as she entered the U.S. Capitol on January 6th will spend 45 days in prison. Mary Posa Castro went live on Facebook as she went through a broken window in the Capitol building. Judge Reggie Walton fined Castro $5,000. During sentencing, Walton mentioned he was reading books about how civil wars start. Walton said, quote, "History is repeating itself in our country," a country Walton says he loves.
We brought this to you earlier this week. The infamous Capitol rioter who took House Speaker Pelosi's lectern has been sentenced to 75 days in prison, and another Capitol rioter is going to have to spend time behind bars as well. Adam Johnson, he pled guilty to entering and remaining in a restricted building. The Florida man bragged that he broke the internet when he was photographed carrying House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's lectern. Johnson is a stay-at-home father of 5 boys. Now, Judge Walton said Johnson made a mockery of the events when he grabbed the lectern. Walton also ordered Johnson to pay a $5,000 fine.
The so-called Don't Say Gay bill is on its way to the Florida State Senate. The bill limits when and how teachers in Florida public schools are allowed to discuss gender and sexual orientation. Opponents of the bill dubbed it the Don't Say Gay bill. Activists say the bill could increase suicide rates for LGBTQ kids. President Biden is slamming the bill. He calls it hateful.
Guilty. That's the verdict for 3 former Minneapolis police officers involved in the arrest of George Floyd. A federal jury convicted all of the officers on all counts Thursday after 13 hours of deliberation. J. Alexander King and Tu Tao were found guilty on 2 charges, failing to render medical aid as well as failing to intervene in Derek Chauvin's unreasonable use of force. Thomas Lane was only charged with 1 count for failing to render medical aid because he did ask Chauvin to roll Floyd over. Lane was found guilty on that charge. The former officers will remain free on bond. Pre-sentencing proceedings could begin next week.
The leaders of a trucker caravan headed to the nation's capital for President Biden's State of the Union speech may have ties to far-right groups. The caravan left California on Thursday. Intelligence officials say many of the organizers of the caravan have connections to the January 6th attacks. The caravan is inspired by the trucker demonstration that took place over the Canadian capital in recent weeks. The FBI and U.S. Capitol Police say some of the truckers plan to block streets and freeways around the District of Columbia. Organizers say they want congressional hearings into the origins of the pandemic. So much on this online right now. There was someone that was speaking about how they were trying to save truckers' pensions just a year ago, and this is kind of how you repay the Capitol who tried to make sure your pension was taken care of. Also, what's interesting, one of the truckers were interviewed, which is so insane that he would take an interview even. He said that, quote, his plan was to choke the U.S. Capitol with a trucker caravan. And so if we already know this, this should be stopped immediately. There should be nothing else that's going on now that we know this information.
It's a copycat crime. They saw what was going on at the Canadian border, and they want to, a copycat protest, I guess, rather. They want to do the same thing here. It's similar to what we talked about yesterday with those, many of these people have connections to January 6th as well. So those folks who are trying to incite riots or get people mad. By yesterday, we talked about them trying to shut down power grids. Now they're trying to shut down highways in the nation's capital. It's a concerted effort to really increase tensions across our country after seeing what happened in Canada.
Yeah, and you think about January the 6th insurrection, you saw that, right? So now they're reinventing themselves and trying to do it this way. So whether you call it the Freedom Convoy, which they call it the January 6th or the Great White or the Trucker Convoy, whatever you call it, they're trying to disrupt what's going on. They're trying to make a point, but they're going about it wrong. But I'm hearing they've raised quite a bit of money behind them, so they do have money behind them as they continue to try and push this.
And, too, those caravans are huge. They're very heavy. Like, with a certain amount, who knows what the damage could actually be?
I just didn't know we had all these trucks available. I'm still waiting for some stuff at the port.
That part.
Okay, sir.
Okay, can we get those delivered? All right, so many police reform activists in Florida are upset today after an appeals court overturned the conviction of a former cop who shot an autistic man's caretaker. The 2016 shooting happened when Jonathan Aletta and 12 other cops responded to a call about a man with a gun. Police saw Arnaldo Real Soto, who suffered from development disabilities, and his caretaker, Charles Kinsey, sitting in the street, as you see there in the video. Soto was upset, and his caretaker was trying to calm him down. It turned out Soto had a silver toy truck in his hand. The caretaker told cops it was a truck, but cops said they thought it was a hostage situation when they shot at Soto. They missed him and hit the caretaker in the hip. An appeals court judge reversed the conviction for misdemeanor negligence. The judge says he did it because prosecutors did not allow testimony in the 2019 trial from a SWAT officer who trained Aletta.
Turns out the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has ties to the organizers of January 6th rallies that preceded the attacks on the U.S. Capitol building. The New York Times reporting this week that Ginny Thomas was involved with people who planned efforts to subvert the 2020 election results. Thomas served on a board of a group that circulated a document urging Republican state lawmakers to challenge the 2020 election results. The Times story says Mrs. Thomas founded a group that got funding from Steve Bannon. That's one of Donald Trump's chief promoters and former White House aides, all of them promoting a big lie about the 2020 election.
The parents of a 15-year-old boy charged with killing 4 classmates at a Michigan high school will stand trial. A judge in Michigan found there is enough evidence to try Jennifer and James Crumley on involuntary manslaughter charges. They are accused of giving the gun used in the shooting to their son, Ethan, and also failing to intervene when he showed signs of mental distress at home as well as at school. The Crumleys' attorneys have insisted the couple didn't know that their son might plan an attack and didn't make the gun easy to find in their home.
Let's talk about a governor that seems to stay in the news. Texas Governor Greg Abbott wants states agencies to conduct probes into the use of gender-affirming treatment for transgender children. The state attorney general says the treatments are a form of child abuse. In a letter to the State Department of Family Protective Service, Abbott cited an opinion that makes puberty-blocking medications and gender reassignment surgery illegal. Abbott says Texas employees who discover evidence of medical procedures used to change the gender of a child should report that information to state family services.